it's all about the cloud, and you've described it as the early days. So would love to hear more about that. Is it like the wild, wild west?
Well, about once a week I pick up a news article online and it says that the cloud has happened. We are so early. Yes, it is happening. Global IT spend is $4 trillion. And right now, public cloud consumption is between 3 and 5% of that. So the train is still in the station, and there's plenty of opportunity. Some of the large vendors haven't even gotten on board yet, but they can and they will. And in the long run, what we're going to see is mainstream adoption. But usually you start with simple projects, you experiment, you see if it works, and then you try more and more and more. And we haven't gotten to the point where we're moving mainstream compute workloads to the cloud. We're experimenting. Social outreach, applications like that. You're not risking the business, but more and more large enterprise corporations are beginning to take a serious look, and I think that's where it's going to go.
And you mentioned mainstream adoption. You've also, obviously, the adoption has been accelerating. It has been quite explosive. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, in the early days, it was in, say, San Francisco, it was everybody south of Market, the startup guys, two guys in a garage going, hey, let's throw this cool application together, and they put their heads down and they start building stuff. And because of vendors like Amazon delivering the infrastructure and Engine Yard delivering the application management platform, the opportunity cost was almost zero. They could start, they could use a credit card, and they could see if it worked. And then at scale, they can begin to fine-tune and lock things down and worry more about security and compliance and performance. And that was the early adoption pattern. So you're seeing lots of startup companies, lots of telephone apps, mobile phone apps everywhere. But now large corporations are beginning to do the same sort of thing. We have Fortune 500 companies using us for marketing promotions in Europe. They use us for launching products. We have a division of a Japanese company in Africa that is using Engine Yard running on Amazon to do employee performance management. And those are examples of precursors to mainstream adoption. And as those small little steps prove to work, corporations will do more and more compute load in the cloud.
Okay, and so as far as your outlook goes for the next 5 years, you're saying it's the early days now. Do you think there will be mainstream adoption in 5 years?
Well, I think the transformation, and it's inevitable, is a decade-long transformation. And it's sort of a joke or a humorous thing, but most people don't realize, I'm not sure, but I think IBM still generates about $1 billion in revenue from COBOL licenses. It's not a lot of new COBOL applications, but you don't throw out the stuff that works. And so the workload that's going to be moving is mostly the greenfield new applications to tackle various types of innovation, and then the long slog to migrate old applications or rewrite them and put them in the cloud. That's not something that can happen overnight. So, you know, if you're talking about a $4 trillion market and you imagine that maybe a third of the workload could go to the cloud, that's north of $1 trillion a year in spend in the cloud. It will take a long time to make that happen, but that's what makes the opportunity so exciting.
And what about headwinds? What are the challenges, do you think, that these companies will face?
Well, the number one reason companies don't move workloads to the cloud is a concern about security. And then if you have some retailers in the news recently that have been hacked, that means pretty much anybody can be hacked. These professionals that can go in and hack sites, these are sites that are pretty well protected and where they have a competent IT organization, means that anybody's vulnerable. So you're going to be a little careful. And let's face it, again, that's why it makes sense to take the safe workloads, the cloud use cases that are very appropriate for the cloud, and put those out there first, and then gradually get better and better and better and more secure.